Welcome to the Women in the Arena podcast, a platform dedicated to honoring America's women veterans who dare greatly in all aspects of life. I'm your host, Sarah Scully. At Women in the Arena, we harness the power of storytelling to illuminate the human experience. Through authentic narratives, we honor the resilience, authenticity, and leadership of women who have served our country. Our name, Women in the Arena, pays homage to Theodore Roosevelt's legendary speech, The Man in the Arena, recognizing the remarkable contributions of women in traditionally male-dominated domains. Welcome back to the Women in the Arena podcast. I am so excited to share today's episode with our listeners. I know I say that every time, but this one is truly special. Today, I got to sit down with Hailey Gibbons. Hailey is a former active duty Army officer, and she is a female graduate of Ranger School, which is one of the most demanding military schools in the world. Hailey is an extraordinary person, and she's gained some very significant social media traction in the last year because she's been willing to share her story about attending Ranger School and giving others practical tips, be it men or women, on how to do the same and how to live an amazing life. She is a truly inspiring person. This episode is for anybody who is interested in Ranger School, interested in any military school that pushes them, who wants some practical advice on where to start. But really, this is just a great episode to listen to an inspiring woman share her story and talk about breaking barriers, challenging herself, and how you can do the same. Hailey is a remarkable woman, and I'm super thankful that she shared her story today with us. I hope you enjoy the episode. Great. Well, Hailey, welcome to the Women in the Arena podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. I have been, I guess you could call it like a fangirl from afar for quite some time, and love everything that you're doing on social media, love listening to other interviews that you've done, and I've gotten a lot of interest and excitement that we're doing an episode today. So the listeners are ready. The ladies are ready to hear what you got to say. So the focus of this episode is going to be centered around preparation for Ranger School, attending Ranger School, and life since then. However, this is also about you. And so I want our listeners to learn about who you are as a person. And so where I always love to start is, your pathway to service. And so how you decided to attend West Point, maybe what that moment was that sparked that decision or that interest in service, and anything you want to share there.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I am equally as excited to get to talk to you and kind of bring this Ranger School journey to a bigger audience. So that's awesome. Growing up, I had no idea about the military or the Army. Only saw military stuff on movies, really. So when I went to West Point, it was very out of left field. My dad was really excited when I first told them that I was interested in it. And one of my sisters jokingly, she said, "Oh, Hailey, you can't get in." And that's like typical middle sister to younger sister banter. But that was all the like motivation I needed to apply to West Point and get accepted. It was the only school I applied to, and I didn't have the strongest packet because my SAT scores weren't that good. But I was able to make up for that by being very physically fit. Like a whole theme throughout my life, kind of, I'll never be an A student, maybe a C or a B student, but my physical fitness will kind of make up for that. And in the Army, like, there's no place better to be fit or be a good runner because that just equates to like being good almost. So that kind of boded well for me. But yeah, it was the only school I applied to. Very odd. I got accepted. I packed my bags. I was all excited, and I walk onto the soccer team. I played soccer all my life growing up, and I was okay at it. I wasn't the best. I wasn't recruited for any schools. But during the 6-week like basic training they have at West Point called BEAS, I forget what the acronym stands for. Um, they had like open athletics where you could go and play a sport with one of the like D1 teams. And I was able to walk onto the soccer team because I was able to outwork and beat all of the recruits on some of the sprinting drills. So I was able to find success there. Um, and that was just kind of really the early stages of West Point on the soccer team freshman year. I got kicked off end of freshman year just because I wasn't that good and I got in trouble. And then I joined the cheerleading team when one of my friends saw that I was like in a down and bad situation. She's like, Hailey, I think you should join the cheerleading team. Never cheered a day in my life. But again, I was athletic, so I was able to kind of muscle through the tryouts. And she's like still my best friend to this day. And so that was kind of the theme of my time at West Point, not being the best, but being able to make up for it by being physically fit and finding really, really good friends to help make that experience less miserable.
Awesome. I love that. I really also like the cheerleader to Army Ranger path for you. Not many can claim.
Wild, wild. Never would
Not
I have
many can
thought that'd
claim.
be a thing.
Where'd you grow up? What part of the country did you grow up in?
Bellingham, Washington. So it's
Okay.
a very small town, northeast west corner of Washington State, about 40 minutes south of the Canadian border.
Okay. Awesome. So you graduate from West Point. Tell us early on in your career as an officer, what were some of the things that you loved? Where did you find yourself gravitating towards in the Army? And what were some of the most positive moments from those first few years?
Yeah, so actually early on, so I commissioned and graduated from West Point in 2014, and that was before women were allowed to branch combat arms. I knew if that was an option for me, I would have wanted to go infantry because at West Point, that's all you really learn is infantry tactics, and I was pretty good at that. And I was very excited, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, so I branched transportation. Um, because I knew I was only going to do 5 years, and I was like, oh, transportation will be great. I'll get out. I'll go work for like Boeing or Amazon or something, get a great job. And so that was kind of my mentality with that. But when I go to basic officer leader course right out of West Point, they opened up Ranger School to women. And I was so excited because I knew that was something I wanted to do. Because from uh, my very like early years at West Point, I knew nothing about the Army, but I knew when someone with a Ranger tab walked into the room, everyone stood up like a few inches taller. And I was like, that is awesome. That's an organization, that's a school that I want to be a part of. And so Ranger School was always something on my radar and always like something that I would complete. And at Bullock, in Fort Lee, Virginia, they had like a pre-ranger course. So I was able to go to that pre-ranger course and you like try out, they select the highest PT scores, and then you're able to do that in lieu of regular PT with the rest of your peers. So that was something that was awesome. And then I go down to Fort Hood, which was my first duty station, and I was able to get a slot for the first Ranger School class that they allowed women to go to. I did RTAC. I made it like 2 days in, and I got a really bad concussion. And after that, I was severely depressed. I didn't know it was depression at the time, but looking back on it, like the signs were there. Um, and I was really bummed. And so that was kind of like the first 6 months of my time as a lieutenant. And it just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth for Army because I was like, oh, I didn't get to do this. They won't send me back. I don't really like my unit, the people that I work with, but luckily I had really great friends that were also stationed at Fort Hood. So being surrounded by that group of women really helped me get out of that funk and kind of made me fall back in love with the logistics world and everything. So early on, I like was drawn to yes, Ranger School, but also just developing stronger friendships with the women in my life, and then really learning the foundations of what a transportation officer is and how that feeds into like the logistics world for the Army.
Awesome. Two things I want to kind of dive into there. So, one is that I think, in looking at your Instagram and all the awesome reels that you make and the content you make, and then also some of your interviews, somebody may not know that you tried once and weren't
Mhm.
able to attend, that you had, a pretty catastrophic injury. Concussions are obviously no joke. And so, I think it's really important to start with that, and we'll get into trying again and what that looked like. But, just for a reminder for anyone listening, because I think this episode is going to attract individuals who are interested in pursuing a military school that is challenging or just anything that is physically and mentally strenuous that, you know, if it doesn't work out the first time, it very well may work out the second, third, or fourth time. And injuries are unfortunately incredibly common, especially in the military when you're doing all sorts of ridiculous things all the time. And then I also just love that you mentioned your female friendships and how those really anchored you. That's kind of the origin story of this podcast was the connections with amazing women made along the way and trying to kind of highlight that through connections through this podcast because man, oh man, the friendships you make in the military are unlike any other. You face challenges together that you just simply will not face anywhere else. So just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, absolutely. The friendships I made at West Point, we're still best friends to this day. And it's so rare, and just such an awesome, awesome thing.
Yeah. So how did you get back? What was the pathway back to kind of re-engaging with this goal, and what did that look like? What was the turning point that allowed you to do that?
Yeah, so it took a couple years. That was year one of being in the Army, so 2014, 2015. And it wasn't until 2020 that I was able to get another go at Ranger School. I do 4 years at Fort Hood or 3 years at Fort Hood. I go to Captain's Career Course again, where I become a logistician, a logistics officer, and I go over to South Korea. I was stationed at Camp Yongin, which is this very, very tiny camp. It was a very cool assignment. I was very upset that I got it, but it was just like a blessing in disguise. And then from there, I spent a year and I came to Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State um, in 2019. And it wasn't until then that I was like still over the Army. I was excited to get out. I submitted my request from active duty packet. It was approved by HQDA. Um, I applied for like Hiring Our Heroes. I was going to have an internship with Nike. Like it was really cool. And then COVID hit, and things kind of changed. And then they moved me from the brigade support battalion that I was at to brigade staff. And it was like the most terrifying moment of my life because the brigade S4 at the time, Major Jillian Burke, she's 6 foot tall. She's the smartest person in any room, and she's just like a force. And I was so intimidated by her, but she was like, "Oh, Hailey, you give a very good first impression." I remember that like interaction so well. And that was really the only time that I had a mentor that cared about me, that saw some sort of potential in me. And that was the turning point of everything. Um, so I was on brigade staff. I withdrew my refrad packet, request from active duty packet. And she was, because Major Burke, she was like, "Hailey, I think you should stay in. And I think you should take command of this forward support company." And I was like, "Sure, if you think I should do it, I'll do it." And so that was my next move. And it was Major Jillian Burke and Colonel Chung, my brigade commander, who really saw the potential in me. And they were excited I was going to be the new company commander. It was me and another woman. She was the First Sergeant Eggleston. And we were the only like two women company commanders, so or like command team. So it was very awesome. And about 4 months into my time in company command, um, Major Burke was like, "Hailey, what do you want to do next?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like the choices are like go teach ROTC kids or do something," but none of that really like excited me. And the other company commanders in my battalion, they all were previous Ranger Regiment lieutenants. So I was able to kind of learn from them, see how they operate. And I was like, "Oh, I want to be like them. Like they know, they are the most professional. They are so competent. They're all great guys." And so that's kind of where I got the firsthand look at kind of what Ranger Regiment could be. And so I go to my battalion commander and I let him know, like, hey, I want to go to Ranger Regiment. I want to apply. And I think that's what I want my broadening assignment to be. And he was like, okay, let's do it. So that was kind of the turning point and like the mindset shift. And it's a very like pinpointed experience or like moment in time, which not many people have thinking about it. So it's just very cool to think back on.
Awesome. So, getting into preparing to attend and all that good stuff. Well, first, let's start with somebody listening to this right now may not know what Ranger School is, or maybe they've heard of it, but they don't know, what the school is in practice. So, tell us at a high level what Ranger School trains you to do and what the course consists of. Like, what's the end state when you graduate that school?
Yeah, so Ranger School is a military school. Anyone from any branch can attend, and it's a leadership school. It is 62 days, and it's broken up into 3 phases. Um, First phase is down in Georgia at Camp Darby, and then that's about 3 weeks. And then once you pass everything there, you go up to Camp Merrill in North Georgia. So like Dahlonega area, huge mountains, all that stuff. And then once you pass those 3 weeks, then you go down to Camp Rudder in Florida. And throughout the 3 phases, you are graded on basic infantry tactics and leadership abilities. There's about 20 different tactics that you're graded on, and each tactic is broken down into like 20 different steps. And so you need to make sure you hit all those steps, and then when you're in a leadership position, and then you'll get your go or no go. And that's kind of how the 3 phases are broken down. The first week is called RAP week, and that's where you get tested on like physical fitness standards and ranger tac or RTTs, ranger technique something. And that's just like uh, assembly, disassembly of 240 Bravo, stuff like that, and land nav, and then there's a swim test. So there's like there's a big hurdle you have to get over the first week, and it's physical. But all the standards are posted, and then the last 3 phases are just kind of rinse and repeat, but different terrain and different ranger instructors.
Yep. And just to add to that, not that I attended, but again, for someone listening with a little less context, throughout those 62 days, you are incredibly fatigued,
Mhm.
incredibly underfed, under a tremendous amount of stress. So, there's a physical component and then obviously technical and tactical skills, but also extreme exhaustion on the body, extreme mental stress. And so, um, probably just as much mentally taxing as physically taxing going through that selection process.
Yeah, absolutely. They design it to where you're exhausted and hungry, starving actually, and that's kind of how they get to test your leadership abilities. Like how well can you lead your peers when everyone is just wanting to go to sleep or shower or eat like a Big Mac or something.
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting. It's a very physically demanding and emotionally draining course, but it's a very cool one to have gone through.
Yep, absolutely. So for those preparing, thinking about any school, but Ranger School being the focus, tell us how during that window of time, from preparing to go the first time and then preparing to go the second time, how you, not to use like a cheesy phrase, but like stayed ready, right?
Mhm.
Because the difficult thing I think with whether it's a military school or a race or anything in life, where maybe the first time it doesn't work out is like keeping your mind and your body engaged for that
Mhm.
next opportunity to come. Cause it's so easy to be like, hey, I'm just gonna, throw the towel in mentally or with my habits or whatever. And so, what did you do to kind of keep yourself in a good place so that when that opportunity presented itself again, you weren't in a place where you had to play rapid catch up physically or mentally to prepare?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing about military schools, most of them, the standards are posted. Like you can Google it. All the standards that you will be tested at are known. So for Ranger School, For me, it was the previous fitness test where it was like push-ups, sit-ups, 5 mile run, 12 mile ruck march, and some chin-ups. So that was posted. Now they changed it a bit, but it really comes down to lifestyle. I've always been a proponent of wanting to be like one of the more fit people in the room, and I find a lot of like self-confidence with that. So the first time I look back and I can't believe how wildly underprepared I was, but how like overconfident I was in my abilities. I was my run time was really low, so that was good, but just like physical fitness, not really. I look back and that after I failed or like got medically dropped the first time, that's when I really got into CrossFit. And luckily, I fell in love with it. And CrossFit and running have been like two like constances in my life since then. And so for the second time, when I needed to just like fine tune my fitness level, I already had that baseline because I still did CrossFit even when I was over in Korea. I still would run and everything. And even with like the pandemic in the middle of that, I bought a road bike and I went and like got really into cycling. So um, staying prepared so you don't have to get prepared is something that I've always like held on to.
Mhm.
And it's something that was so helpful for me too because I didn't have to start at zero. So that was really helpful for the second go around.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you had to pick maybe three or four things on the physical side, so maybe it's running long distances at zone two or walking with weight on your back or whatever it is for someone who is trying to stay ready or be prepared should an opportunity present itself. I'd like to keep this in the context of a woman's body.
Mhm.
um, I believe women that can do anything, but I think that we have different strains on our bodies. Sometimes, things like pull-ups can be a little bit more challenging. Most women can't get up on a pull-up bar and just do a pull-up without ever doing one. We're typically smaller in frame, so we're putting a big ruck on our back. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing. Not that it's easy for anyone. So, for somebody who is like the average sized woman who's in the military, who would like to attend a school like this, what do you think are some of the main things that they should be doing consistently and keep them integrated into their routine to stay prepared?
Absolutely. Um, like you said, zone two running, that's one of my favorite things to do. I could run in zone two for the rest of my life and I'd be happy.
Same.
So there's that, but then doing 800 repeats. It's a brutal distance, and the lactic acid threshold just builds and builds and builds. 800s have always been like a consistent like threshold tempo exercise that I've done. So zone two and 800s, and then weighted step up and step downs. So find like a knee height box, grab some dumbbells or a kettlebell, step up onto the box, and then also step down when you're like going forward. So you get that like forward motion because that is so crucial for the varied terrain you will experience in ranger school. And if you're training specifically for ranger school, your quads need to be like pistons. They need to be so strong because like we said, like you don't get the proper nutrition when you're at ranger school. So your body will deteriorate and that 100-pound ruck will feel like 200 pounds. Like it'll be brutal. So going in with like the best conditioned legs possible is something that'll be really helpful. um like worrying about chin ups or pull ups and push ups, that's just kind of always going to be there. Like you have to train those, so just like working on compounded lifts for upper body, that'll be really helpful. But the other two things are unilateral work, so just like the step ups and step downs, like single leg movements, to really help with stability. And then Bikram yoga or any form of yoga. That was one of the most helpful things for me because
So glad you mentioned yoga.
yes, it was I did it like my train up for Ranger School and selection was very disjointed. I didn't really have a plan, but I consistently did Bikram yoga at least 2 times a week. And it helps condition you for when your heart rate is elevated and you're in the Georgia heat and it's just miserable. But you learn how to keep your body calm in that like elevated stress.
Mm-hmm.
And then the yoga movements and the asanas themselves help you with that balance, that equilibrium, the like unilateral work too. So that was just so helpful for me. And I even did like, I made sure I stretched during Ranger School too, because I didn't want to get injured. And a lot of people, they would just eat their food and then go to bed. I would stretch a little bit and then go to bed or eat a little, but I prioritized stretching as well. So those are just a few things that I would really work into your routine to make sure that you're the most physically fit.
One thing I love that you said, kind of in two different ways, is just preparing for the conditions that you're going to actually be executing in. This is, I think, one of the biggest mistakes people make for military schools or races is they train in perfect conditions. They maybe get really fast, but they don't run like on a trail if they're doing a trail run. And then you get out there and your body's not used to, rapid movements or uneven terrain or your knee bending a certain way when you're stepping, and it causes injuries, and it can get you completely, just dismayed if, you fall or like something happens and it like messes up your mental stride. And then also too, something I never would have considered, because I love yoga for the mental and physical benefits and recovery and all that good stuff, but never would have even thought about like the weather training for the Georgia heat. That is such a great life hack to
Yeah.
prepare, because I know personally doing heated yoga and heated classes all the time, I do so much better when I run in the North Carolina heat, because my body's used to, being at like a 160, 170 heart rate and it being 95 degrees. But doing that for the first time when you're performing is definitely not a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And like in Ranger School, there's no mild conditions. It's extreme either way, like
Yeah.
extremely cold, extremely hot, extremely humid. So there's no like perfect day in Ranger School. And if you are training in like a bubble where it's just perfect conditions, like you will most likely fail. And like a good rule of thumb is train in conditions at which you'll harder than which you'll be tested. So um it's just really it's good to diversify your training and do it in different environments and on in
Hmm.
different mediums, so you're just not like a one track pony kind of deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any plans that you followed specifically for the physical preparation part, that if somebody was diving in and maybe they had 3 to 4 months to get their body ready, or maybe more than that, anything that worked for you really well?
So I didn't have any plans. I overtrained. I went about it very wrong. But if I was to do it all over again, I would the the team that I built my training plan for this ultra marathon that I just did, Atlas Training Solutions, they are a group of guys who are all either like tier one something, Ranger Regiment, Navy SEALs. A guy I worked with in Ranger Regiment, he's the founder of this company. And they're just so smart at what they do. And they have a Ranger train up plan. I would look at that. Because they know exactly what you need to do and how to get your body in that conditioning. Um, what I did was like wake up super early, go run like no less than 10 miles or ruck. And then I would do unit PT because I was a company commander when I was training up for this. So it was weird. And then I would go do CrossFit for about an hour, 2 hours, and then I'd go to like Bikram yoga. But I was also a single woman, didn't have kids, could selfishly use my time and money. So I had all the time in the world to do whatever I wanted, which was really nice for training. So, but I would look at Atlas Training Solutions for sure.
Okay, awesome.
Hmm.
Now, let's talk about nutrition and sleep.
Hmm.
So, I think there's a lot of theories out there about sleep preparation. Like some people think you can like train yourself for, sleep deprivation, or you can bank sleep or all this stuff. I personally don't think that. I feel like you're either tired or you're not, but you can maybe get psychologically prepared for doing things tired and thinking when you're exhausted or performing physically when you're exhausted. So was that something that you kind of just figured it out as you went, or, maybe preparation from West Point and just being an officer in general, you were just kind of already used to those conditions? But is there anything there that surprised you, or if you could go back, you think it would have been helpful to know about sleep deprivation?
Yeah, so what was really odd was the sleep deprivation really didn't get to me, and I would like to, think it's because I went as, like, a 31-year-old woman. I wasn't, like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old
Yeah.
straight out of basic or a fresh lieutenant out of West Point. Um, I I had a bigger perspective on things, I'd like to think, just because 'cause I've seen 8 years of the Army. uh, I found myself corralling the people that were droning into the woods. They would like be like sleepwalking into the woods. Sure, there'd be times where I would fall asleep, like manning the 240 or something, but who among us? But I don't believe in sleep training either. I think getting the most amount of sleep you can while you're training up for it and while you're preparing your body for this like intense event is going to be the most helpful. I didn't really get the best sleep. I would probably go to bed at like 10, 11, and wake up at 4:30, so I didn't do that, but looking back, I wish I would, like, prioritize sleep more. Um, but in ranger school, like, you're not gonna get it, so, I guess whatever helps that individual mentally prepare for that. If it is sleep deprivation training, go for it, but, I don't think ultimately it'll get you your go when you
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
then with nutrition, so again, something that I've struggled with and I've had other female friends struggle with is in order to be physically fit as a woman, you're probably already fairly lean, right? So you
Mhm.
don't have much fat to carry. And so then you go to a school and you're starving, and then you are more injury prone. You don't have much reserve on your body. And so, was there anything that you did to prepare for that? Did you gain weight before you went to school, or did you kind of just keep things steady and consistent? And then what did your nutrition preparation look like in order to kind of get your body into ideal conditions so that you were showing up, like you said, like rested and fed and all those good things, because it was about to change quite drastically once the school started?
Yeah, it's actually so funny, like, being on social media, I look back at all the photos and videos that I filmed while I was training up for it, and I'm like, "Who is that girl? She's a beefcake." I looking back, I weighed probably 150 going into Ranger school, and now I sit at, like, 135, and it wasn't it was more muscle mass for sure,
Yeah.
like, I had huge traps, it was great, but definitely gaining a little bit of muscle, um, is helpful. I wouldn't say you need to gain fat, but honestly, I don't know. I think each body is different because going into Ranger school, I weighed myself, and then leaving Ranger school after I weighed myself, and I only lost like 5 pounds, which is
Oh, interesting.
insane to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my body responded pretty okay to those conditions, I think. But again, I think I just lost a lot of muscle mass. But definitely try to gain a little weight, both muscle and like fat, just because you'd rather have it than not have it and just be like totally emaciated. And then like getting out of ranger school, your body will be like a lot better responding to your normal lifestyle than before if you didn't. So it would just be better to do that for sure.
Awesome. And then lastly, so aside from the mental preparation, the physical preparation, talk us through, so being a logistics officer, how you got yourself at the level of those attending who were coming from the infantry, who maybe had a little bit more experience with some of the things that you were being tested on. What did your technical skills training look like? And for someone who is also maybe coming as logistician or from another part of the army where you don't get as much hands-on experience with some of those skills, what were some of the things that you did to get prepared that way?
Absolutely. So I was lucky to have another woman ranger in my battalion, and I went and asked her for help when I was training up, and she was like, Googled the 20 boards. And I was like, what is that? The 20 boards are the 20 tactics that you're graded on. And it's just basic infantry tactics like ambush, crossing a linear danger area, stuff like that. Like, just like the physical fitness standards, those standards are published and out there. Learning that ahead of time, but I also went to a pre-ranger course that was awesome. I was coded under 75th Ranger Regiment, and I went to their small unit ranger tactics course, which is about like 3 or 4 weeks right before your ranger school date. So it's just like an intensive this is ranger school class, and it was super helpful, walking through and talking through the tactics. And I'm pretty sure every post may require some sort of pre-ranger course, but if not, grab a buddy and like talk through all of the ranger boards. Because there may be some like nuanced differences for the tactics that are being like taught at ranger school, but having that baseline knowledge will, one, build your confidence, and two, make it that much easier for you to learn when the RIs are talking to you when you're exhausted and hungry and you just want to sleep. So being familiar with the 20 boards will be so helpful. But at the end of the day, like the the sleep and the food deprivation, that's a huge equalizer. And so whether you do have a very like you are very tactically sound in infantry tactics or small unit tactics, or very unfamiliar, like the playing field is very, very even. And then uh, I found a lot of help by writing everything out as well. Like when you go to Ranger School, you can't have any like pre-written stuff, but I was able to like that's how I memorize stuff, is just like writing it out, and I was able to write all the steps out. And then I would take the Write in the Rain notebook that I took to Ranger School, and I would write out the steps as well as best to my memory. And then when the RIs were teaching them to us, I would go through, make sure it was right, edit it to what they said and everything like that. So for tactics, Google the 20 boards, grab an NCO who's been to Ranger School or any other Ranger School person, and have them walk you through it.
Okay, awesome. Any other kind of things that surprised you that you wish you had prepared for? Like, for example, when I went to a longer training course in the Army, I realized I hadn't done enough rucking in my uniform, and I realized that my skin really doesn't like, for whatever reason, does not like the cloth that uniforms are made out of. So I chafe like crazy, like in places on your body that you're like, I didn't know that my shoulders could chafe or my
Yeah.
elbows. And so, I wished in hindsight that I had done more long rucks and ruck runs in, the uniform that I would actually be doing those things in. So anything that when you got there, you're like, oh crap, like I didn't know I was gonna have to sew my name tapes onto this bag. Like I never learned how to sew or just something really silly.
Um, yeah, being comfortable to be vulnerable. You walk in with like a huge ego, you're all excited, you're going to crush Ranger School, but then like you have to ask people for help, and you have to shit in a hole in front of them. So like it's a spectrum on being able to be okay being uncomfortable with them. And like having to ask a guy, hey, can you man this so I can go take care of business? That dynamic I didn't really think through, but it wasn't an issue. All the guys were great that I went through Ranger School with. They were amazing. Um, so that was one thing. And then one thing I also didn't really think about was when you take a knee with your ruck on. My knees were that was the worst part of Ranger School, I think, for me. It was just so painful, even with knee pads, even with like foam inside the knee pads. It was brutal. So I don't know how you train to get your knees to not hurt when you take a
Yeah.
knee, but that
I
is just
literally, as you said that, just like felt it in my knee. Like I know exactly what you're talking about and it is so freaking painful. So
it's so
yeah, I don't
painful.
know if you can toughen your knees, but at least like do it a few times so that
Yeah.
when it's happening the first time,
And
it's there.
exactly. And then one other thing, be okay with being annoyed. Learn how to operate being annoyed, because like you'll be tired, you'll be hungry, and you'll be on this like long endless patrol, and you'll have this skedco on top of your ruck, and then little branches will keep grabbing at you and tugging at you, and that feeling is just like trying to untangle a bunch of cords, and you can't do it. It's the most annoying thing, and that's just like Ranger school throughout the entire thing. So
The whole experience.
yeah, just be ready to be annoyed. Yeah.
I really like two things that you said. So the vulnerability part, love it. I think vulnerability is necessary in just anything we do in life with leadership.
Mhm.
It's a word that gets thrown around a lot. It makes some people uncomfortable. Some people use it too much. But, um, what you said, when you're showing up at a school like that, you're probably with a lot of high achievers and with some of the best of the best. And it's natural for our ego to, want to overcompensate and show how great we are and not maybe show the things that we're not so great at or ask for help like you said. And that's something that we have to learn to do, whether it's at ranger school or presenting at a board meeting when you're in the civilian world, like asking for help, understanding where your strengths and weaknesses are. So I love that you said that, and it's something that is part of getting through tough parts in the army and then other parts in life. um, and then what you said about being annoyed, being, I guess I would call that almost a master of emotional regulation. So in anything in life, there's just things that, get in the way, whether it's a tree branch in your eye and just doing things in really not ideal conditions, or when you're professionally swamped and you have a lot going on in your personal life and being able to not come home at the end of the day and take your professional grievances out on your family, or go to work and show up as, the best self that your teammates need, and not let the annoyances around you or the noise get in the way of how you treat other people. So emotional regulation and vulnerability, two very,
Yeah.
very good things.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, so for somebody who maybe hasn't been a physical fitness stud their whole life. Maybe running is their least favorite thing ever. And it's not something that they feel confident with, or whatever it is. What advice would you give to someone who, at face value, doesn't feel like they belong at a school like this, but has the desire
Mhm.
and really wants to challenge themselves? But, maybe they're seeing other folks attend who were college athletes, or, consistently perform in the top 1% of different categories. What advice would you give to someone who has the drive, but so much of what you're talking about is not something that comes naturally, or not something that they necessarily feel super comfortable with?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest battle is wanting to do it. So if you have the drive, then you're halfway there, because the biggest part of ranger school, like the hardest thing is just not quitting. So if you're able to do that, then you already won half the battles. But one thing that I tell a lot of people, especially like since I've gotten out of the military, joining a gym has been so helpful for me to have like an outside force holding me accountable to those fitness patterns. So I wake up every morning at 5:30 and I go to the 6 a.m. CrossFit class. Granted, I don't go every day, but like the goal is 4 out of 5 days of the work week. Um, and it helped me get back in shape, because when I got out of the military, I didn't have that structure, and I lost kind of some of my physical fitness, and I was like, this isn't good. This isn't the Hailey we know. Let's get back into it. So having an outside like force, whether it's like your platoon sergeant, your PL, your sister, your partner, having them hold you accountable to those like fitness patterns is really important. And then writing like your baseline of where you're at right now, and then the goals at where you need to be, because if you see that, then you're able to kind of put together a mind map or like a plan of the steps you need to take to get there. Because if you don't know where you're at, you don't know how to get to those standards that you'll be tested at. But like the easiest, like the hardest part of Ranger School is like wrap week, getting through the standards. And then once you pass that, it's literally just not quitting basically. So if they have won the battle if they have the drive and the heart for that.
Awesome. I love what you said about community. I think community and accountability are the secret to success in everything in life, no matter what we do. And I also struggled with the same thing getting out with not having that accountability anymore, and my life routine habits just go
Yeah.
like this. And I too, the best thing I did was get into group fitness. So we'll
Hmm.
have to do another episode on habits after the army because that's like a whole other topic in itself. But yeah, those accountability circles when you have any goal in life, definitely huge. And I would almost venture to say it would be good to have different ones. So have your gym community, have your family accountability partner, have your accountability partner at work. Maybe have an accountability partner who's already done what you're trying to do because they can really
Hmm.
challenge you and know what you should be doing. So I think that's great. So I'm going to ask, it's going to sound like a really silly question, but it's a really important question.
Hmm.
So, how can we as women get over shaving our head?
Oh, you just do it. Like it's part of the packing list.
I
Like
know.
it it it's really shitty. It's not something you want to do, but like I look back and I'm like, that was so cool that I got to shave my head, that I got to go to Ranger School. And like when you're done with Ranger School, like it's almost like a badge of honor. Like I
Yes.
still live in a military town kind of. And whenever I see women with shaved heads, I'm like, oh my God, she probably just got back from Ranger School. Like it's very cool. And the great thing is it grows back. And if it doesn't, we have wigs, we have sew-ins, we have ta hand taped extensions. Like the solutions are there. But yeah, for me, I was so excited to shave my head. I like romanticized it and made like a fun video about it. Like it, I was,
That
I was
means it was
running
really meant to be. You were really
yeah.
born to attend Ranger School because not many women can say they dream about shaving their head.
Yeah, and it's difficult because society places such value on women with like long hair, and it has cultural significance to other people as well. So it is asking a lot. But your will to go to Ranger School and graduate Ranger School has to outweigh your hair length,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So
Not even length, any hair at all.
yes, no hair at all. Oh, funny.
Well, any other final thoughts on preparation and, again, just somebody who is listening to this right now, hears everything you're saying and says, I want to be where Haley's at one day, but I'm scared to take the leap of faith. Any other parting advice for the preparation phase?
Yeah, scared to take the leap of faith. Like my dad would always say, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And so like if the answer is go to Ranger School, put the plan on paper and start mapping it out. Get someone to advocate for you. Because the military is interesting with like getting slots for schools and everything. Find a mentor, have them help you. Um, and just do what you would do if you weren't afraid. Like fear is such a shitty thing, but it's also kind of exciting because it shows that you like either really care about it or it just kind of unlocks some like hidden desire to do something. So just what would you do if you weren't afraid? If it's go to Ranger School, go to Ranger School. Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, I always say that when fear is present, it means something's probably really important. So obviously,
exactly.
fear is something that through evolution, it helps keep us away from danger, but it can also
Mhm.
be a sign that you really, really care about something. Or,
Mhm.
feeling nervous is a sign that you're probably about to do something really great, or you're thinking about doing something really great. And the absence of either of those emotions means probably not doing anything special with your life or super important to you. So I
Yeah,
love that.
exactly.
So tell us, I always like to ask, tell us a funny story from Ranger School or just a moment where you said, I can't believe this is happening right now. I can't believe that I'm here. I never expected this would happen. I'll let you do with that what you will.
Um, it's very embarrassing. So in Ranger School, you have to eat MREs. I ate the Southwest bean burrito, MRE, I think, and I was really excited because it had the spiced apples in it, and that was like one of my favorite little treats. And this isn't like a one-time experience. This is probably one person every platoon experiences this when they go through Ranger School. But they were giving the off-board brief, and I was like pulling security, and I really had to go to the bathroom, and it didn't line up, and I didn't make it to the bathroom, and I had to throw away my underwear, and I used a lot of baby wipes. It was terrible, but that's something that happened, and I'm not alone in that experience, thankfully. But it's just the glamour of Ranger School. You're out in the field, you're doing everything, and it's terrible.
Well, so the good thing about those stories, and I think everybody leaves the military with a story like that, Ranger School or non-Ranger School. I mean, when you're out there running and you're not eating the best food or conditions
Mhm.
are not ideal, things happen. But I always like to say with those stories, it's like, life can only go up from here. So when I'm having a bad day, I think about those moments. Or when someone else is having a bad day, I'm like, let me tell you about something I did one time that everybody saw. And
Yeah.
it really, really puts a bad day into perspective.
It absolutely does, and it's just funny to think about. Yeah, Ranger School's wild. Oh, another time, it was pouring down rain, and it was so bad that the Ranger instructor was like, "Okay, we're stopping everything. Just try to survive the night." And so I had a bunch of contractor trash bags, and me and like three other guys in my squad, we were sleeping in one. But we were so tired, we didn't realize we were sleeping on a hill. And so we fall asleep, and then we wake up probably 30 minutes later, and the trash bag was filled with water. And so we were just soaking wet. We had no idea what was going on. It was like thundering and pouring down rain, and we were soaking wet. It was bad. Oh well.
You made it through. You're clean and
Yes,
dry now.
exactly.
So one last thing about Ranger School that I want to ask you, and it sounds a little cheesy, but I'm really honestly a huge believer in how we talk to ourselves,
Mhm.
the voice in our head. Do you have any mantras or things that you say to yourself to get yourself through a really demanding moment or being on that edge of fear that helps you to get through it and to be Hailey's best self?
Absolutely. 1 second, let me grab something. So this is on just on my little desk in my office. This was the hat that I wore in Ranger School. It's disgusting, but I had my mom. So this Ranger tab that my brigade commander Colonel Chung gave me, and then the tab and the scroll, and then right here, it said, "You have done harder things," or it was either that or "Don't stop, keep going." Those are the two mantras that I would like repeat over and over again during Ranger School. Like anytime we would take a break or anything, I would like take my hat off and I'd look at this, and then I just go through the Rolodex of all the things that I did to prepare for Ranger School and all the hard workouts I put myself through and all the people that were so excited for me. So um, just like grounding you when you're in like a really shitty moment, and it's like you have done harder things. It's okay. We're okay. That was one big thing. And then the "don't stop, keep going." To this day, I still use that. And I love it because it kind of blocks the behavior of wanting to stop and then like ties it to an action. So those were two things that really helped me, and having that like visual written on my hat or anything, like if you're in airborne school or doing another selection, having those visual cues and those mantras are so helpful, and just make it not as scary of a problem. It just kind of brings you back down.
Yeah, well, you use the word grounding, and I
Yeah.
think that's such a great way to describe it, and I love a visual. I love visual reminders and visual cues when our
Mhm.
brain is just all over the place, and for those listening who think this is cheesy, if you watch any Olympic athlete before they perform or professional athlete, they are oftentimes talking to themselves, doing things with their hands, closing their eyes and visualizing something, so this is proven. This is sports psychology. It is proven. So So tell us what you're up to now. What does life look like? What are you doing for fun? You told us a little bit about work. Obviously, anybody who's listening to this who looks you up, you have a great social media presence right now. I love the content that you make. It's so inspiring. I have friends who have no connection to the military who will send me a reel of yours just talking
Oh,
about women or talking about human performance, talking about just pushing yourself in life. So that, the content you're making is definitely reaching the military community and definitely reaching women in the military, but is extending the boundaries of that community as well, which we try to do here on this podcast too. So I just love everything you're doing. So share with us kind of what's next and how Ranger Hailey is stepping into this new professional chapter, and maybe also too, how this professional achievement has kind of shaped what was next for you.
yeah. That's so cool. It always is like wild to hear that people it's still just so weird to me that I'm on social media. But it all started when I was at this first job that I took outside of the army. I wanted to work in the tech world, and I thought a defense tech startup would be the great thing for me to like bridge the gap into the big tech world. And like when you do get out of the military, like that sense of purpose is automatically gone. You're like, now what? And it was like a few months of me kind of like battling like, is this really all I'm gonna do now? Like I don't really love my job, like this is not it. And so that's when I started to post on social media. um it was really difficult for me to do because like I have a private Instagram. I'm normally a very private person, but I was like, I need to do this because I didn't know women could be in Ranger Regiment. And so it wasn't until 2020 that I knew women could be in Ranger Regiment. So I decided to make a public Instagram account, and it's been great, and it's helped me find like a sense of purpose and like a sense of community outside of my work. And I now work at a tech company that I love, and it's my team has a lot of veterans on it, so that mentality is still kind of there, and it's just very awesome to be supported by those team members as well. And they follow some of my Instagram stuff, and I'm like, you're not supposed to be here, this doesn't work.
I know
um,
it's a little weird when people from work are like, "Oh, I saw a video of you doing something the other day." And you're like, "No, that's my other life that you're not
Yeah,
really
you
supposed
didn't
to
see that. You didn't see that. But outside of work, I'm pursuing my MBA as well. So that keeps me very busy. And then with social media, just trying to speak up for those who can't, because a lot of women in the military still, that are active duty or currently serving, they don't feel comfortable doing that. And I will happily do that for them. Because when I was in, I didn't feel comfortable doing it either. But so just doing that, and finding purpose in physical fitness things. I just did my first ultra marathon, which was really cool.
I
And
saw
I
that,
have
congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really fun. I did swear off running on the 27th mile, but we're back at it.
Everybody
Um,
does at some point.
yeah, yeah, it was interesting. But just having like another race on the calendar has been really nice too. I have a 50-mile race here in July, so that'll be fun. But just still trying to figure out like what I'm supposed to be doing outside of the army. I think I won't ever really figure it out, but I'm definitely enjoying helping women and men and people in the army and outside of the army kind of figure out what their bodies can do, push them to the limits, and like feed that. So it's been awesome. It's been very cool.
That is so great. And I like what you said about, having a social media presence and, maybe it's something that you didn't necessarily think that you'd ever do. I think oftentimes, veterans especially are very private in nature. We're preached humility, say less, just kind of perform,
Mhm.
move in silence kind of leadership style. And I think that having that social media presence, maybe at face value, someone could say that, oh, it's just being a public person or being, super extroverted. But really, these days, it's a form of advocacy because this is where people go to get information. That's why people make podcasts and have YouTube channels, because you can literally teach yourself to do just about anything these days
Yeah.
through all the information that is out there. And so I think it's very bold and brave to put yourself out there publicly and to talk about your experiences, because we all know that 95% of it is received well. And then you have the 5% of people who are going to tell you to stop or are going to say things that are not super positive, and to keep doing that and to provide resources for men and women who are looking to challenge themselves in a certain way, but don't really know where to go. And I mean, thinking back on even when we were cadets, these resources didn't exist. There was no, social media presence of women veterans. I think there was a Facebook group maybe, and you
Yeah.
could post in it and say, "What's it like to live at Fort Hood?" Or, "I'm interested in being a field artillery officer. Does anybody have any advice?" But certainly not videos of women out there training, talking about, their experiences doing certain things and helping other people do the same. So I think what you're doing is a form of advocacy. It's very brave. And I know that, you'll inspire many, but even if you just inspired one to take that leap of faith and to put themselves out there, that's a job well done. So super great what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's some of the my favorite comments or DMs that I get are from girl dads. It's so cool. They're like, "Thank you for doing this. I showed my video to my daughters. They're so excited. Like, I can't wait for them to do this." So it's also just changing that narrative, and like hopefully the next generation that comes up, it's easier for them. They won't get as much hate or um like a lot more support from not just women but men too. And the system itself. So it's definitely important to do, and I've found a lot of like purpose and like happiness in doing that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps you connected to the community in a
mhm.
capacity. That was why this podcast was started, to kind of keep that alive and to keep those connections strong and keep telling the stories of women who are doing amazing things. So, my last question for you, and this is oftentimes one of the hardest that people answer, is there are people along the way that help shape us, make us who we are, inspire us. You've mentioned a few names so far of people who helped you and encouraged you and pushed you through some challenging times. But who would be your woman in the arena? So, a woman who really inspired you, not even just with Ranger School, but with anything in life that you'd like to recognize?
Sorry.
That's okay. I love a good cry.
Yeah, I'm a Cancer, so any emotions are on a
Yes.
10. Um, the my woman in the arena would absolutely um be my mother. Like she sewed the tabs on my hat for me. She's been just an um amazing example that anything is possible. Growing up, she'd be like, "Haley, anything is possible. If you want to go to the moon, you can go to the moon." And so, like, being raised by such a supportive woman is something not a lot of people get. I just cherish every lesson I've learned from her. And she's just one of the most selfless people as well. Like, throughout my time in the military, there wasn't a moment where she wouldn't drop everything and come support me. And how she shows up for her community is also so just like mind blowing. She she is one of the most amazing people in this world, and yeah, it's definitely awesome to know that no matter what I do, I have that unconditional support and love. So yeah.
I love it. And it brought tears to my eyes because my mom's mine too. So I totally get
Oh,
it.
I love that.
I'll
Yeah.
just be in like an everyday conversation and start crying about my mom. She's gonna listen to this on our walk and start crying. We all
Oh, I
cry.
love that.
The love is strong. It's a blessing.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
moms are amazing. I say to my good friends all the time that I'm so thankful that they're someone's mom, because like you said,
Mhm.
like having a strong mother and having unconditional love from your mother is, I think, one of the greatest gifts in life. So, shout out to the moms. Hopefully,
Yeah,
maybe your mom will
absolutely.
listen to this too, and she'll hear you say
Oh,
that.
she will. She will.
Well, Hailey, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for such a great episode. I have been so excited to sit down with you and also to get a female Ranger School graduate on here to kind of answer some rapid fire questions about their experience. I really encourage anyone listening to check out Hailey's Instagram and some of the content that she shares. It's Ranger School specific, but also just badassery of life specific, lifestyle stuff, working out, all that great stuff, building better habits. So be sure to check her out, whether you're preparing for Ranger School or if you just want some inspiration and some community. So thank you, Hailey, for all you do and all you'll continue to do. I know that even though you have that Ranger School tab, you're going to continue to take that leadership with you forward and do more amazing things and influence your community and lots of folks, which is really what it's all about. So we appreciate you and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an awesome opportunity. And if anyone out there has any questions, shoot me a message on like Instagram or TikTok or anything. I do my best to get back to everyone. So thank you again. This has been really awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Hailey.
Yep.
The Women in the Arena podcast is powered by Iron Butterfly Media, a production company committed to honoring the lives of women who have had an unseen and outsized impact on our world. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have a woman who you would like to nominate as a guest, please shoot us a message on our social media platforms. Be sure to subscribe and follow on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. See you next time.